we'll go through it.
Members, can I remind you that this meeting will be recorded and ask you to note that mobile phones should be switched off as they interfere with the recording, and that tablet devices should be switched to mute. And remind members to declare the interest as appropriate throughout the meeting. I declare the meeting open to the public. Agenda item 1. Have you any apologies?
From Sean Rogers and Claire McCarthy may not make it.
Okay. We're on to agenda item 2. First business. Can I advise members that the committee staff noticed a small technical inaccuracy in the report on the fisheries bill, which the committee agreed at last week's meeting. Date given in paragraph 17 was incorrect, so paragraph 17 has been amended to read: at the meeting of 2nd of February 2016, the committee agreed its report on the bill and ordered that it should be printed. Committee staff have amended this and replaced a copy of the report laid in the business office. Then item 3, minutes of the meeting on 2nd of February 2016. Can I refer members to the draft minutes of the meeting on 2nd of February 2016 at pages 6 to 10? Are members content that the draft minutes are accurate?
Sure, could my apologies be noted at this stage last week? It's okay, we can add them in there.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
And item 4, matters arising.
Chair, could I possibly raise some just before we go into matters arising that I'm concerned about? Could I raise it now?
Will I do it with any other business?
Could I raise it now, but just in case I don't, if I may, it'll not take long. I would like to raise the concerns which the poultry industry representatives have been bringing to my attention following the Deputy Minister's withdrawal of the renewable heat incentive. I think they're most angered by the lack of consultation with the sector, given the industry is already going through tough times and the biomass sector has been seen as the way forward. This, they tell me, was a kick in the teeth to our poultry industry. So could I suggest, could we write to both Daddy and Dard ministers and ask for an explanation of why the funding was closed off and the impact they feel this would have on the poultry industry, which had been planning for future growth, because this has an important impact on our farmers and our economy. So I think it's too important an issue not to ask for clarity around this.
Absolutely. I have a number of calls even this morning. I took a dozen farmers on, and just one actually I took one while we were sitting here before we started. I think certainly I think we've no issue writing to the minister involved in that issue.
Both ministers, yeah, okay.
Pardon?
Daddy and Dard ministers, yeah.
Daddy and Dard ministers, I think. I don't think it probably will be Dard. The Daddy minister is responsible. I think Dard.
Yes, but it will have an impact, obviously, on growing for growth in the strategy as well.
Well, I don't think this will. This will stay until the 31st of March. So that will stay in anyway at 31st of March. If it ends sooner than that, yes, it will have some impact.
But for planning, for future planning, obviously, with the poultry industry, and like you, I've received numerous calls from farmers who have made a commitment to the poultry industry as well. So
yes, but this will stay until the 31st of March. That's quite clear.
Yeah.
But if it ends sooner than that, there obviously will be an impact, and I think that's very important
yeah.
that is recognised. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Matters arising. Refer members to matters arising at pages 15 to 36. Can I refer members to Dard's response to the Assembly Research Office papers provided aspects of better regulation which the committee considered at the meeting of the 1st of December 2015. Can I ask members to note the papers and we will consider them in greater detail when we receive an hour briefing from Dard on the better regulation inquiry currently scheduled for the 16th of February 2016. Can you also ask members to agree that we forward responses to the research officer for information? Okay, members? Are members content to action the rest of the matters arising as suggested on index sheet of pages 12 to 14? Okay, members, move on to agenda item 5. We have an oral briefing from Dard on EU issues. Can refer members to the memo from the clerk at pages 38 to 39 and papers provided by the department at pages 40 to 49. Can I welcome Norman Fullerton, Chief Agricultural Economist, Central Policy, James McEllean, Central Policy, Mark McLean, Principal Agricultural Economist, Policy Development Branch, and Cara Reynolds, Dard Business Brussels Office. Can I ask you to take up to 10 minutes to make your presentation? and then we'll ask some questions. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So we've provided the committee with a briefing on 3 items today. First one, the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, or TTIP, negotiations. Secondly, an update on simplification. And then thirdly, on Brexit, which I think the committee had asked for a few words on that. Turning first to the TTIP update, when you're aware, the Commission leads for the European Union on the negotiations, and the European Parliament will have to ratify any agreement which is eventually reached. Within the UK, it's the Department of Business, Innovation and Skills that is the lead department. TTIP obviously covers more than simply agriculture and food, but in terms of those particular issues, negotiations are aimed at reducing import tariffs and tackling non-tariff barriers, which is really about regulatory convergence and trying to harmonise or move towards greater harmony on phytosanitary rules. A deal would see increased trade between the EU and US. And generally thought that the net impact would probably be in favour of US farmers, especially in beef, which is seen as probably the more sensitive product. However, as in any trading relationship, influences such as exchange rates will always be a major factor in determining the balance of trade. At this point in time, it doesn't seem likely that a deal will be concluded in the very near future, and I think probably the 12th meeting is to be held sometime pretty soon.
22nd of February.
22nd of February, yeah. So UK government position is it would seek an ambitious agreement. It would like to maximise export potential for UK companies and see significant benefits for UK and European consumers. Our position, there are opportunities and threats in any trade agreement, and we have to recognise that there are opportunities here. But we also need to consider the vulnerable sectors and need to be mindful of the potential impact there. Now, we have not commissioned any specific research around the TTIP potential deal, but we have looked at similar type of trade agreements in the past. WTO, for example, we looked at that in 2005, 2009, using the FAPRI team at Newforge. Main conclusion around there, again, is that beef would be the most vulnerable of the sectors in a more open trading environment, with prices and production being affected. TTIP, negotiations are continuing. Could see opportunities for expanding exports. So it's always a balance, not just within agriculture, but of course across all sectors as well. And it is a delicate balance to be reached on that. Moving on to CAP simplification, it's an ongoing process. Commissioner Hogan provided an update to the November Council on progress during the year. Back in May, there were some concessions around mapping requirements for ecological focus area and treatment of permanent grassland, which was welcomed, reduced the mapping requirement for the department considerably, and that was very welcome. Also some concessions around EFA rules, allowing substitution of EFA features, which farmers may not have declared, but they were able to use them if they needed to bring that into their 2015 claim. So some welcome concessions there. They came very late in the day. It wasn't possible to include them within the guidance material, but they'll be there for this coming year. In the autumn 2015, there were some changes made to the implementing delegated acts, Young Farmers Scheme. There's now an option from 2016 to restrict that support to cases where the young farmer is in sole control of the holding. Committee will be aware that currently partnership arrangements are acceptable, provided the young farmer is in a controlling position within the partnership. It's not an option that we would envisage using within the department, but it's an option that is now available. Another change which, again, is potentially welcome, preliminary checks, an option for Member States to notify claimants of errors, such as duplications, within 26 days of the application deadline. Claimants then would have a further 9 days to amend their application without penalty. However, it comes with conditions. All applicants would have to use the Geospatial Aid application system. Now, whilst we'll be making that available this year, the online system, not all applicants will use it. So we've asked the Commission whether it would be possible to carry out that option of preliminary checks if DARD were to take the paper applications and upload them onto the Geospatial application system. Now, even if that was possible, of course, it will be a significant challenge for the Department to be able to do that. There are a large number of paper applications to be loaded on, validated, and applicants notified of any difficulties, any problems within 26 days. So at this stage, we can't commit to being able to do that. Obviously, the more online applications that are made on the new system, the better. Further changes, a reduction in the number of on-the-spot checks, again, welcome. Able to reduce the level of non-greening cases that we would have to include, or rather it would be carried within the overall requirement for on-the-spot checks. And another option to reduce the number of on-the-spot checks if the error rate is below 2%. Unfortunately, we will not be in a position to make use of that option, and we don't think very many Member States will be in a position to be able to use that option. Moving on then, December 2015, the Commission launched a consultation on first year of implementation of greening. We've provided a copy of that to the committee. I think we sent that a few weeks ago. And we will be responding to that consultation, and we've also made stakeholders aware of the consultation. Most recently then, 2016, January, the Commissioner announced proposals for simplification of the penalty regime, a reduction in penalty levels, but complications included within that, which would make it difficult to apply. Reductions for first-time breaches, the yellow card system. Anybody in that position would have to be inspected the following year under these proposals. Discussions on these proposals are ongoing at this point in time. So changes to date have been largely technical in nature. The Commissioner has indicated an open mind with regard to opening the Basic Act, which is sort of a change in position from what he had last year. But it's certainly not a foregone conclusion that necessarily will happen. On the wider simplification agenda, refit exercise is ongoing. It's a regulatory fitness and performance programme. It's much broader. It's really around trying to create simple, clear, predictable regulatory framework, cut red tape, remove burdens, unnecessary burdens. And the Commission is committed to screening the entire stock of EU legislation under this programme. So, as you can imagine, a very substantial volume of work to be done. The REFIT platform includes member state experts and experts from the social partners, business, civil society, European Economic and Social Committee and the Committee of the Regions, so a fair degree of representation on that panel, taking forward that very substantial volume of work. Final thing I want to mention then today is Brexit. Obviously, it's becoming an ever more topical subject, increasing interest in the issue. After 42 years plus of EC membership, obviously the whole EU framework is very deeply embedded in the economic, social and environmental governance that we have. The body of European law extends to 35 chapters, estimated probably over 100,000 documents in all of this, so it's a very substantial body of work. And whilst we may be tuned into agriculture, rural development, fisheries, food safety, etc., it ranges much wider than that: competition policy, environment, energy, free movement of workers and capital goods, services, customs union, company law, lots of factors here which would impinge indirectly on the industry, so all of that needs to be considered. Now, in terms of the potential impact of any decision to withdraw from the EU, would very much depend on how the UK chose to fill the policy gaps that will emerge with withdrawal. And that's simply something that we don't know at this point in time. However, trade would be a key factor in terms of determining the effect of any UK exit on the agricultural sector, agri-food sector. 28% of our food is exported to EU countries at this point in time. And there are a range of potential options for the trading arrangement. At one extreme, you can have the arrangement that applies to Norway as a member of the European Economic Area, which means that they have to implement the full body of EU legislation relating to the single market. And it gives them access to the single market, allows free trade of industrial goods with the EU, but that doesn't extend to agriculture. And whilst those countries within the European Economic Area are bound to adopt the body of EU law relating to the single market, they have no formal access to the actual decision-making process, and they merely have consultation rights. So they have to abide by the rules, but they have no say in the setting of those rules. And they also have to contribute to the EU budget, and it's, in the case of Norway, it's, for example, figures from 2011, the net contribution in Norway, £106 per capita. The net UK contribution that year, £128 per capita. So it's a significant contribution that is made. So that's one extreme. At the other, you could go for a simply be bound by WTO rules, in which case UK would sit outside the European tariff barrier, and that would represent a significant barrier for European products. And there's any number of possibilities in between. Perhaps, arguably, the most likely arrangement would be some sort of free trade agreement, such as the UK and the US and EU are trying to negotiate at this point in time, allowing free movement of goods, but you would still have to have common standards to facilitate such trade. So again, the standards that we would have to apply would probably have to reflect the standards that are applied within the EU. Again, we would not have a say in setting those standards. And of course, you'd have the cost of doing business, with all the rules of origin checks, licenses, etc., that you would have to contend with. Beyond that, of course, a very important aspect is the UK would also have to negotiate its own trading relationship with non-EU member states, and that could be much more significant in terms of impact. So agreements with Canada, US, New Zealand, Australia, etc. And just to put it in context, I mean, trade effectively determines market prices. If you look at the revenues coming to Northern Ireland agriculture, last year, 1.7 billion from the market, 250 million from CAP. So you can see where the relative importance would lie in all of this. So sometimes we do get fixated on the amount of money coming from CAP, but the bigger share of the revenue comes from the market, and markets are determined by trade. So just on the CAP, obviously it's impossible to know what any CAP support regime would be post an EU exit. The UK wouldn't have a completely free hand in setting that, so it would have to operate within WTO rules. So what sort of regime would we have? Would we have reasonable flexibility? What size of budget would it have? How would that budget operate within the existing arrangements? Would it come out of the block grant, etc.? Rural development, would we have a rural development policy, or would it be subsumed within broader social, economic and environmental policies that already exist? Fisheries, again, withdrawal from the European Union would require negotiation on management arrangements, access of foreign vessels, catch limits, monitoring landings, etc. And of course, no European fisheries fund. So potentially a very wide range of issues that would have to be addressed. Would obviously take a considerable amount of time. to have a completely new policy framework put in place. And the overall impact within agriculture, there will be positives and negatives, undoubtedly. What the balance would be, we can't say, but also that would have to be judged within a broader balance right across the economy. And again, it's impossible to try and put a simple figure on that. In terms of the mechanics, following a formal notification of withdrawal, the UK would have up to 2 years to negotiate the terms of withdrawal from the EU under Article 15. Okay, that's a trot through. There's a lot there, but happy to take questions.
Thank you very much for your presentation. And probably first of all, can I say, I suppose, Chair of the Committee, I think we felt as far as the Commission and Europe is concerned that much more can be done to help the industry in relation to safety nets, in relation to helping farmers that are producing, especially in the dairy sector, well below the cost of production in recent times. We had an aid package that was announced by the Commissioner. How do you feel that aid package, how effective do you feel that was in Northern Ireland?
Well, the overall package, around about £5 million, seems a big number, but when you divide that amongst 3,200 farms, whatever it is, it doesn't come up to a huge amount per farm. Certainly, it comes nowhere near addressing the level of reduction in revenue that the sector has experienced. So yes, welcome, but certainly it's not a solution to the problem. I don't think it ever was projected as being a solution to the problem. And the market downturn reflects the global balance of supply and demand. This has been going on a considerable time, and it seems as it will stretch for some time to come. Volumes of production do not seem to be coming back, and ultimately that's what's required to rebalance markets. And you still have significant volumes being going out of the US, etc. And even locally, we still have significant volumes ex-farm.
In other words, the 5 million was a gesture. I mean, at 0.23p a litre, it was more or less a gesture. Has there any figures on the amount of red meat entering Northern Ireland from outside the UK?
I think we probably could.
We could dig it out, but we haven't got it.
Yes, we could provide.
You could provide that?
I think we should be.
Well,
able
it
to
would be
provide.
all meat. It would be all meat products, including
Meat products?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that would, yeah, okay.
We'll try and get that.
But just as a total, as a value, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. As well as the briefing you give us today, we have in the pack a letter from the Department on the proposed regulation on animal health. In the discussion on the official feed and control regulation, you indicate that there's a proposal for mandatory charging to all sectors. This might, for example, be an additional cost of 48 million to the UK industry. Can you elaborate on what that means for Northern Ireland?
It's not an issue that we would have prepared for, but we can certainly provide you with some sort of estimate of what that would mean for the Northern Ireland industry. Yeah.
Okay, that would also be stuff, okay. Ian, first of all, Ian.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks for your presentation. Just one little point I want to ask, and that's about duplication penalties. If you have over 3% of your total claim and duplicated, then you're fined yet again. Say £900, that would increase to £1,800. Is there any changes on that front?
Well, the changes that could be brought in are from 2016, and not for things going backwards in time. Probably a number of issues that are on the go. There's the issue has been referred to earlier about preliminary checks, and certainly in principle that's welcome, that if it is permissible under EU legislation to inform farmers of a duplicate field and for them to have the opportunity to correct it without penalty. That is certainly, is a welcome development. The issue is the conditions that the Commission write into it in terms of use of the geospatial aid application and also the time frame which the farmer has to be informed within 26 days of the deadline for applications, was the 11th of June. I think what I can say at the moment is we're looking into that to see whether or not that's possible to do, and implementation colleagues will no doubt be able to provide further information. The other point is the actual penalty that is applied, and the Commission there has, again, from a welcome perspective, has reduced the level of penalties. Again, they propose to apply it from 2016 if it can get agreed within the EU structures. They intend to make it retrospective to 2016 because it's not likely to be agreed until May or June, but they will apply it from the 1st of January 2016. But it is 8 applications that are being made from now on. And in essence, the change is penalty before was that it was reduced by twice the difference of the error. So if somebody over declared by 4 hectares, not only lost the 4 hectares, but they lost a further 8 hectares. What they're proposed to do now is to reduce that from twice the difference to 1.5 times the difference, which reduces the penalty in some cases. Also, instead of having automatic, where it's above 20%, you lose all your payment, that wouldn't be the case anymore. It would still be 1.5 times the difference. Obviously, if you get up to such a high percentage, it could mean the penalty does wipe out all the payment. The other aspect that the Commissioner, or what the proposal does, is that it's the so-called yellow card. If you're between, the over-declaration is between 3% and 10%, the proposal is that it would be half the penalty if it was your first, if it was the first penalty was applying. But, and this is where the complications start to come in, is what the Commission has proposed is anybody in that situation has to be, if the over-declaration is found by an inspection in that year, has to be inspected in the following year, 100% follow-up check. And if anybody does get the use of the yellow card, they're found to have over-declared in the following year, then not only do they have the full penalty for that year, but also the half penalty disappears. So that half that they got some leeway on is also added on. You can see, especially in terms of the inspection requirements, this is making this all complicated. You have to trace back to what happened in the previous year. There is a lot of opposition, especially to the inspection requirement amongst member states, and the discussions are ongoing. And so we're certainly using every avenue we can to try and get this made a bit simpler, because the overall concept is good, but I think the Commission could move a lot further in making the proposal a lot simpler to actually implement.
Okay. Well, presently there's an appeals mechanism, is there?
There is, yes, but there's a review of decisions, but now that operates under DAR's own procedures.
So the question I wanted to ask you, see, was because of people about it. They're saying that when they're fined genuinely, make genuine mistakes, they're told you can appeal it surely, but it's a waste of time. So why have an appeal process then if something's a waste of time?
Well, like review of decisions process has to operate within the EU regulations, and the regulations don't, at the present moment in time, do not excuse penalties because the mistake is genuine, as opposed to somebody deliberately did it. And we totally accept that the vast majority of irregularities on claims are mistakes, but the review of decisions process has to work within that, and there's only some very, very limited circumstances in which penalties could be excused.
Okay, thanks very much, Chair.
Okay, Edwin, please.
Yeah, you don't seem to be a wild enthusiast about Brexit, but nonetheless, in terms of TTIP, UK did decide to exit Europe. TTIP would not apply on it, so it would be a completely fresh agreement would have to be negotiated between the United Kingdom and Europe. Actually, need a fresh agreement between Europe
That's correct, yes. Yep.
and USA.
Yep. Actually, the UK would be able to negotiate its own trade arrangements with all other trading blocs.
And have you had any discussions as to what will be done in terms of foreign subsidies with DEFRA? Because obviously UK is contributing £1 for every 49 pence it gets back. It's going to be 51 pence in the pound of a surplus. Has there been any tentative discussions with DEFRA as to whether we would be taking a hit in terms of single farm payment, whether single farm payment would largely reflect what's going on in Europe, or whether indeed we would get a much more flexible and perhaps also more money in terms of single farm payment?
No, there's been no discussion of any plan B, we could put it that way, and DEFRA have confirmed that they are not considering any potential UK agricultural policy post a potential exit. So effectively, it's a I suppose in the political arena at this point in time, and there is no work ongoing to develop a potential policy if we were to exit.
Right. So DEFRA is just their fingers crossed that the public go with David Cameron and not against.
Well, I say it's in the political sphere at this point in time, and as officials, we simply respond to whatever the decision will be.
Okay. Declan?
Chair, thank you, Chair. Norman, in relation to the TTIP, you made reference to that the studies that you're referring to over 2005-2009. Is there work ongoing? Are you considering doing additional studies to try to analyse the full extent that this may impact upon farmers, particularly vulnerable sectors?
No, we don't have any modelling work going on looking at TTIP at this point in time. The work we commissioned previously was part of the FAPRI project, and that's jointly funded across the UK. So at this point in time, programmed in for that.
I suppose we wouldn't expect the results to change very much, although, you know, obviously some things have changed, like exchange rates, etc. Demand, etc. Things like that have changed, but I think the direction of the results would stay the same, you know, and the relativities would probably be very similar, so we would still expect the beef sector to suffer the most from a free trade arrangement.
The notes which were provided here, you made reference to putting appropriate safeguards in place for vulnerable sectors such as beef. What sort of safeguards could be put in place?
I think that's part of the negotiations. Really, you know, for example, would there be effectively quota limits, for example, on the volume of trade, or perhaps limits on the particular types of cuts that may be imported? These are the types of things, but also in terms of the standards. I mean, a red line issue for the EU has always been hormone-treated beef, and certainly there, the Commission have indicated that this is an absolute red line issue. They would not want to see imports of hormone-treated beef in the European market. Probably a large proportion of the US beef production would be using use of growth-promoting hormones, so that's a factor. Although it's more to do with regulatory standards.
So, what I'm picking up then is that obviously if in the context of this regulatory convergence, so there's a danger, for example, that we could be flooded with beef from across the Atlantic, and that would have an impact on prices and would benefit the US farmers. What sectors would actually benefit from here, this side, you know, in terms of
well, there is some research on that, and there's different pieces of research and different results emerge, but I think the feeling is that some parts of the dairy sector could benefit from it, you know, particularly some types of cheeses, you know, could benefit. I think the other sectors are probably neutral in the total impact. You know, there'll be increased exports from both sides, if you like, you know, but it's very difficult to say where the net benefit will land. That depends very much on exchange rates and how they move over time. But I think the feeling is that, you know, if the most vulnerable sector is certainly the beef sector. But I mean, it depends what's negotiated. I don't think they're going to open the floodgates to American beef to come here in a large volume. They'll probably agree something on terms of quota for hormone-free beef that can come in without having tariffs. So there is a quota already, and they'll probably extend that. Depends how much increase that. If it's by a huge amount, it could see it. By a small amount, notice a change in market prices.
What's the nature of agreements that are currently in place, and how to differentiate from a TTIP agreement?
Well, at the moment, there's tariffs on a whole range of products. 2,000 products have tariffs, and all those tariffs are different for every product. You know, there's different tariff for different cuts of beef. You know, so all of those are being considered, and you know, the new agreement will alter some of those. I would imagine, but we don't know where the agreement will end up. It's still being negotiated. It's very difficult to tell exactly what the final agreement will look like.
Also, I'll say what I'm sort of finding that there's a wee bit of a dearth of information about the actual impact. You know, what I think would be useful to have it. You know, to actually model it and find out the actual impact. You know,
It's a very significant modelling effort to do that. I mean, the 2005 and 2009 modelling was in the context of a WTO agreement. A vague recollection of, was it 13% on beef, was it, or something, as much as that?
Well, it depends. There were several scenarios.
Yeah. I mean, we could dig back and provide you the information from those previous modelling exercises. You know, it is a substantial amount of work that would require to do that. I suppose things that have changed since then. I mean, the US beef herd is significantly smaller today than it was, you know, 10 years ago. And exchange rates as well will have changed in the intervening period. So you have all these background effects going on as well. But I think the underlying message, as Seamus said, probably the same, that of all the sectors, it's probably going to be the beef sector that's going to be the most vulnerable. But certainly we can provide the committee with the analysis that was done. It gives you a feeling for the types of impact that you would see.
I think just one point I would add on that is the complexity of the current tariff regime makes it very difficult to model, because there's thousands of tariffs, and really you could never reflect that precisely in a model, and the outcome really depends on what exactly is put on the table and what precise tariff lines that you cut and by how much. And a lot of the negotiations will probably be around tariff-free access, about how much do you actually allow in without any tariffs being applied. So, you know, until really, you know, there's offers put on the table, it is very, very hard, because you're sort of stabbing in the dark what's going to be cut and what's not going to be cut in order to get a precise impact.
I should probably just add that at the moment the industry would like to be able to send more beef to America, and they're keen that inspectors come here and clear their factories to export, because the price of burger beef is higher there than it is here, and they think they could send some meat in that direction. So, you know, it's always swings and roundabouts. You know, you gain a little and you lose a little in all these arrangements.
Okay. The long-term aspiration of CAP is the equalisation of payments across Europe. In Dorg's estimation, what change would that bring to Northern Ireland in relation to per hectare payments? Would that be?
Yeah, well, the level of payment we have here is very considerably higher than the EU average. It was a factor in the last negotiations. The new member states in particular were looking to have a significant rebalancing. What was actually finally negotiated was actually very modest in terms of an overall rebalancing. I imagine that will come back to the table this time. They're full members and they will like to be treated equitably. No doubt about that. But then even within the UK, as the committee will be aware, there are significant differences between the regions. And those differences date back to the start of the previous decade. In terms of the level of couple support that was being claimed at that point in time. So yes, as time goes on, there certainly will be increasing pressure to rebalance those budgets. Our average is €329. I think the EU average is 270 euros. UK is 229.
Okay.
So, and that's of course assuming that the budget remains as is, which could be a heroic assumption as well.
Okay, so there's a lot of ifs and buts in that.
A lot, yeah, absolutely.
How long it might be before that kicks into place? It'll be probably into the 2020 somewhere up there.
Well, the current mandate extends to 2020. We'll be almost certainly back into some sort of negotiation process, I would guess, from 2018. Probably talking about it before then. I mean, if there is to be convergence, then I would imagine it'll be a transition. It'll not happen on year one. But that's all ahead of us.
Okay. Cross-compliance was mentioned earlier on. That's my final question. Cross-compliance has been ongoing from 2005. And as a farmer myself, I'm aware many farms have got multiple inspections. But many farms never got an inspection as yet. That doesn't seem fair and equitable. Why some farms should have 10 inspections in the last few years and other farms never seen an inspection.
Well, it's come back to it's a sampling regime. It's 5%.
5%.
Yeah. So it's 5% in the area and 1% cross compliance. Yeah. So it's in some ways it's
So you're
partially
never
luck
have
of
an
the draw.
inspection? Are you saying to me if you're unfortunate you just never have an inspection?
Well, there's no reference back.
Yeah, but
As such,
I'm
yeah.
saying, but it doesn't seem fair and equitable in that situation.
Well, like at those percentage levels at 5% and 1%, it's certainly possible that from 05 there are people out there who've never been inspected. I think the issue comes is once somebody is selected for inspection and say, for example, there's a breach found or whatever, then that all factors into a risk analysis and it could be more likely that they might be picked out again.
But I mean, there is, it certainly doesn't seem equitable and fair, the system as it stands. Because I mean, I would say at least, I don't know the percentage, I'm sure you know that, but there's quite a high percentage of farms never been inspected. I mean, I'm not saying that they should be, but I'm saying if one farm's inspected 2 or 3 times in 1 year sometimes, and another farm never sees an inspection, it doesn't seem very fair and equitable, I would have thought.
Well, part of
Then the system is something wrong when that's the case.
Well, part of the selection is a risk-based and part is just purely random. But you're working with a 1% sample overall. So, 1% of farms in any 1 year.
Yeah.
So over a period of 10 years, yes, there will be a significant number of farms, just simple statistics, will not be inspected. And you will others which will have had several inspections. But that's the nature of a sampling regime. It's not really a case of you take your turn in all of this.
Looking more inspections, Chairman?
I got my share in the past, yeah, but I didn't complain about that, but farmers complain to me about that, so yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I know, I don't complain, I have to.
And that's understandable, yeah.
Yeah, you can understand why that is the case, yeah, I can understand.
Yeah.
Okay, any other members? Thank you very much again.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
can do everything except take the questions.
For it. Don't make any decisions.
Yeah, because we can take the evidence, it was going to make a decision. Are you okay for it? Yeah.
Don't let you away.
I think he called run out.
No, well, just in case I'm
He's chained here. He's chained here.
Having a quorum. Have to try and get you one.
No, until I get a quorum.
Go back here, the last big comes.
We need one.
You can take the evidence, you just can't take a decision. You can hear from people.
Whatever you go through this,
You want to take a break for 5 minutes and take a get the back?
you not think it's better, because you can
Okay.
get through it all. Okay.
That's grand.
We'll just suspend 5 minutes. We're having a quorum at the moment. To just, is it okay for
Yes.
5 minutes? All right. Okay.
This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30.
Right through the offer.
Yep.
Move on to agenda item 6. Oral briefing to our Rural Needs Bill position on amendments. Can I refer members to the following documents? A letter from the Department dated 8th of January 2016 with a list of draft amendments at pages 51 to 53 and the committee's bill report at pages 62 to 92, which we agreed on 26th January 2016. A letter from the Minister updating the committee on those amendments which required executive approval in tabled papers. I remind members of the state of play when we agreed the report on Rural Needs Bill on the 26th of January 2016. At the meeting, 12th of January, the Department brought a list of 9 amendments that the Minister proposed to table at consideration stage. The amendments to Clause 1 are subject to executive approval where necessary. The committee agreed to all 9 amendments at that meeting. Of the 9 amendments proposed by the Minister, 6 required or were dependent on executive approval. These were amendments 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 9 at pages 52 to 53. Members will recall that those are the amendments which deal with the 2 specific issues of 1, changing the provision that public bodies should consider rural needs to that where they would have to have due regard for rural need. This is a higher level of provision. This is with reference to amendments 1 and 2 and to extending the list of public bodies which will immediately fall under the remit of the bill to those bodies named in the schedule. This is with reference to amendments 3, 4, 5 and 9. Members will recall that I updated the committee on the 26th of January that the amendments had not been considered at the executive meeting of the 21st of January 2016. At that point, the committee agreed to revisit the situation at today's meeting. Can I advise members that DARD officials have joined us today to update us on the amendments and to indicate how the Minister. Can I welcome Colette McMaster, Assistant Secretary Director of Food, Farm and Rural Policy, and Astrid Stewart, Head of Rural Proofing Branch. You're very welcome, and I asked you to take up to 10 minutes to give your presentation. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Committee members, as requested, we'll provide a short verbal brief to advise which amendments to the Rural Needs Bill the Minister intends to table at consideration stage. The Minister has written to you, Chair, on 5th of February to set out your intentions. During the committee stage of the bill, as agreed with the committee, the Minister proposed to table 4 policy amendments to the bill, which were subject to the agreement of the Executive, and further 5 minor amendments. 2 of the minor amendments proposed were contingent on the policy amendments. When we last briefed the committee on the 12th of January, I advised that the Minister was seeking the Executive's agreement to the 4 proposed policy amendments to the bill. These are the amendments that the committee sought in relation to strengthening statutory duty and the inclusion of other public bodies on the face of the bill. The position as at today is that the Executive's agreement to these 4 proposed policy amendments is not yet obtained. In order that the bill can be progressed through its assembly stages within the limited time remaining in the current mandate, the Minister has decided to proceed to table at consideration stage the 3 minor amendments that are not subject to the agreement of the Executive and that are not contingent on the proposed policy amendments being made. These 3 minor amendments, as previously agreed by the committee, are the amendments that the committee sought in relation to the transparency and accountability of the reporting arrangements. They are an amendment to Clause 2 to change the word may to will. The effect would be to place a duty on DARD to provide guidance, advice and information and to undertake or commission research on matters connected with rural needs. An amendment to Clause 3 to require the Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development to make an annual statement to the Assembly on the proposed monitoring report that DARD is to prepare and lay before the Assembly. And a further amendment to Clause 3 to require DARD to publish the annual monitoring report in addition to the requirement to lay it before the Assembly. And, Chair, hope this short brief has helped to clarify the amendments that Minister intends to table at consideration stage. Just would like to mention that the proposed timing for the final stage of the bill is now changed to 8th of March. Therefore, the proposed dates for the remaining stages of the bill, subject to scheduling by the Business Office, are consideration stage on Monday the 15th of February, further consideration stage on Monday the 29th of February, and final stage on Tuesday, 8th of March. Chair, that brings me to the close of my opening remarks. We don't have anything further to add for now, but we're happy to address any questions from members.
Just one question there, clause 2, page 1, line 19, leave out may, and I think you said insert will.
Yes.
We have down here must.
Sorry, it is must.
Must.
Okay, no, that's
Sorry,
right.
I've
Makes it clear. Okay.
Sorry, no, just to clarify, it's must. Absolutely, yes.
Any other members, any questions?
Thank you, Colette and Astrid. Just remind us of the 4 amendments which we previously agreed here, but which aren't being proceeded with.
There were amendments to clause 1, which is the duty of public authorities to consider rural needs.
At the due regard.
The proposed amendment was to change consider to have due regard. And then there were some contingent amendments to support that, and those were for in the second part of clause 1, if you want to go through those, it was public authority, where public authority means, and as it stands, the bill is drafted as a Northern Ireland Department, a District Council, any other person specified in an order made by the Department. That would be changed to any body or person listed in the schedule. Further proposed amendment to that first clause is to insert a new 2A clause, which related to the list of bodies and persons set out in the schedule, and it was to the department must at least every 3 years from the coming into operation of this section review the list of bodies and persons set out in the schedule, and if it thinks it appropriate, amend the schedule related to that. A further proposed amendment to clause 1 was 4A, and that was related to transitional provisions in relation to the list, to the schedule. An order under subsection 2A may contain such transitional provision as the department thinks appropriate. So that actually is 5 of the amendments, proposed amendments.
And then the schedule.
The final, yes, one relating to the schedule was to insert a new schedule, and that was at Amendment 9. And then there was an amendment to the description of the bill, which was to impose a duty, and this ties in with the change to the duty, impose a duty on public authorities to have due regard to rural needs and for connected purposes. That was really going through the amendments that the committee sought that would require that minister supported subject to the agreement of the executive.
Okay. Glad I see the Minister has not secured executive agreement to the amendments concerning replacement to consider and due regard on the naming of additional public bodies on the face of the bill. Can you explain why that hasn't happened? Haven't got executive approval for this?
Well, Minister has referred the proposed amendments to the executive, and she has sought executive agreement to those proposed amendments. It's really, we're not in a position to comment on the executive's deliberations on the proposals, but at this stage the agreement is not yet obtained.
Yeah, is it a decision, or is it a matter of not just getting round to it?
It's not yet obtained is really So
Okay.
she has referred her proposed amendments to the executive and has not yet obtained
Okay.
agreement.
Okay. Any other members? Second again?
Chair, could we get advice on how, because just conscious that we spent a lot of time deliberating on this. We've had a wide range of organisations like NILGA and SOLAS and UFU and NIAPA, RCN, RDC and all the rural networks. And there's quite a lot of deliberation across the people on this here from the farming and the rural sector, rural development sector. And this was a very, probably one of the predominant themes that came across from them around the due regard and the listing of them on a schedule in particular. And I think we need to look at what option we can to proceed with that.
Okay. Okay. If there's no, any other questions then?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just can go to the public gallery again, okay? I know where you're coming from, but there may be a way around this, okay? We come private and you know. I advise members that while Dart has chosen not to table amendments 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 and 9 because executive approval has not been approved, it is possible for the committee to agree to table them instead. However, a decision on this will have to be made at today's meeting. As the deadline for amendments is 9:30 tomorrow morning. Can I take the opportunity? Can I take the opinion of members on this issue?
Well, what reason has the executive not done it for? Must be something.
I have no idea at this stage.
I would prefer to
Probably.
ascertain first what the situation is before we charge in.
Difficulty. We have to decide today. So, can we? If it has to be tabled before 9:30 tomorrow morning. Okay.
Chair, I think in the light of that close deadline, then that it was the decision of this committee, to progress, with those amendments of the. Am I right in saying that? And so therefore, maybe the committee should bring forward,
Well, this is what the committee has to decide. I'm not sure. It's a difficult position to be in. We don't know whether the executive. We haven't been told as to whether they disagree with them or whether they just didn't get.
See, some of these things can have implications beyond hard as well. Like, that terminology changing from may to must, I wouldn't be particularly comfortable with that, to be honest.
There's something that was agreed to the committee
I know,
earlier in the
I
stage, and that's the difficulty we have.
I was not at the meeting last week, and it's a good reason for not being here. But it's, I'd be uncomfortable with that, and if the executive is holding back on some of it,
I think it's
maybe for very good cause.
I think the difficult ones. Due regard to, is it? No? What's it? It's the must is the one?
No.
Okay.
due regard.
Due regard and additional bodies.
Due regard and additional bodies is the two ones that the issue is on.
There's
That's
sort
what
of
it's.
two sets of, if you want to put it that way. One is to replace consider with due regard.
Consider the due
Which the
regard for.
committee
See, all these things may
agreed.
be tested in the court someday,
Yeah.
and I would have a suspicion that the ASO or Attorney General might be advising the executive that they could be setting up problems for themselves if they accepted it. And
Yeah.
we've been asked to do something blind as what the problems are without getting the appropriate advice.
Well, that's. Yes, it would have been good if we had got that, the reasons for the executive not accepting that. That is the difficulty we have. Oliver McMullen.
Aye, well, you see, changing that wording over, we even got new chief executives of the new councils wanting that, because it would make their job easier as well. And we went through the whole thing with all the statutory bodies here that came before the committee. Declan, we were listed them there a few minutes ago. And we looked at the whole scenarios, and there was a fear in here that if it was made that they have to look at the rural problems, that it could cost money, but that case wasn't proven at all. So we took the advice of all the statutory bodies that's out there working full face with the people in the rural areas, including the chief executives of the new councils. And their advice was that's what they said themselves what they would like to see.
Just members, we'll go into closed session for 5 minutes and then people can speak openly here and we'll then have to put it to a vote after that. We'll have to move forward on this. Okay, closed session for a few minutes. Okay, members? Great.
This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room 30.
Right.
Yeah, public.
Be a man. You made the decision earlier on. You can. Sure, you can pull them back. You can pull them out anyway.
You're in public.
That's all right. Okay.
Looks as if you have the numbers anyway, all right. I've done a head count.
Does the committee wish to table the amendments relating to the due regard issue?
Hang on, just let people get back in.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay.
Does the committee wish to table the amendments relating to the due regard issue, i.e. amendments 1 and 2?
Page 52 of your pack, members.
Okay, members. Does the committee wish to table the amendments?
Agreed.
Agreed. Okay, everyone in agreement?
Yes.
Go ahead. On the understanding, we can take it out.
Do you want to take a voice vote? Do you want to take a recorded vote on that or not? No? Okay, agreed.
It's agreed, I think there's no
I
objection.
sit out in this one.
Okay. Does the committee wish to table the amendments relating to the list of public bodies, i.e. amendments 3, 4, 5 and 9?
Agreed.
Great. Great. Okay, members?
I sit out in this one.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, yes, move on to the next.
And item 7, written briefing guard EU animal health regulation. Can I advise members? You can move forward. Be all right to go.
Yes, they're allowed to go.
I advise members of the departments provided a further update on the European Commission's proposal regulation on animal health on pages 94 to 97. Members will recall that the committee were last updated on the Commission's intention to streamline around 40 different legal acts relating to animal health into one piece of legislation back in June 2015. The regulation on animal health is intended to be a framework setting down the principles of animal health for the next 20 years. Since the Department's last update in June, negotiations on the base text of the regulation have concluded. While the UK was happy with the framework structure, which fulfills the aim of making rules simpler to use, it was unable to support late changes in relation to handling of the list of diseases to which the regulation applies. As a result, the UK voted against the proposal. Despite this, the regulation was approved at the Council of Ministers on 11 September 2015. The regulation is expected to come into force and be published on the Official Journal on April 2016. A 5-year transition period will follow, which means the regulation becomes applicable in April 2021. In the last 2 years of the transition period, Member States will need to make the necessary adaptation to their national legislation and be ready to enforce any changes from existing rules in 2021. Can I ask members to note the Department's written brief on the proposal EU regulation on animal health? Agenda item 8, written briefing guard, consultation on guard. Second, Children and Young People's Action Plan. Can refer members to papers provided by the Department at pages 99 to 142. Can I advise members that the committee previously received oral briefing on DARD, Children and Young People's Action Plan, at the meeting of the 30th of June 2015. The action plan outlines how the work of DARD can positively impact on the lives of children and young people. This is the second action plan, and the intention is that it should build on the work started in the first plan. The plan was subject to a 12-week consultation ended in 25th September 2015. On the whole, consultees were generally positive in their response, with some suggesting additional actions for the Department to consider. However, we have been advised that DARD has actually decided to defer the final publication of the revised action plan to enable them to take into account the formation of a new department, the Department for Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs, and the Department of New DEFRA DARE strategy. The committee has been given no indication whether the department anticipates further revising the action plan to reflect the restructuring of the department. If so, the plan may be subject to another consultation exercise, but we have no time frame for this. And I ask members to note the department's written briefing on the Children and Young People's Action Plan. We go on to agenda item 9, written briefing guard publication of final report of FBO audit of TB eradication measures. I refer members to the memo from the clerk at pages 144 to 145. Papers provided by the department at pages 193 to 194. Members may well wish to consult the report itself, pages 147 to 192. The DARD's response to the Commission at pages 195 to 201. Can I ask members to note the department's written briefing on the FAO audit report? Members may wish to note that the briefing on TB is scheduled for March 2016. And item 10, correspondence. Can I refer members to the correspondence received at pages 205 to 231. Can I refer members to the letter the committee received from a firm of solicitors at page 224. This was sent on behalf of an individual who responded to our call for evidence on clause 6 of the Fisheries Bill. It would appear that their client, Mr McCormick, has instructed his legal representative to write to the committee seeking compensation for loss of his salmon fishing rights on Loch Foyle. Members content to respond to Mr McCormick, informing him that we have no powers in this regard and suggest that he address his application for compensation to the appropriate body. And I seek agreement to action the rest of the correspondence as suggested on the index sheet at page 203 to 204. Okay, members. Agenda item 11, forward work programme. I refer members to the forward work programme at pages 233 to 238. Can I advise members that a visit has now been arranged to view the floodgates at Toome on Thursday, the 18th of February. The plan is to leave Parliament buildings at 1 p.m. in order to get to Toome by 2. On arrival, we will receive by David Porter, who will give us an overview of the flood management system and take us down to view the gates. I think since that I was speaking to still, maybe some people might want to make their own way. We'll decide that.
I'm going to organise a bus because most people are going to be going
home after
that rather than coming back to Parliament buildings.
Okay. Can I ask the following members to confirm that they plan to attend? Sydney Anderson, Declan McAleary and McCrae and Alfred McMullen have said to attend.
What date is that, Chair?
18th of February.
Thursday week.
Thursday week.
And that's the 25th.
18th.
I'm about
18th.
Okay, you'll not be able to attend? Okay.
Yeah.
Members will agree that we agreed to extend the invitation to members of the Regional Development Committee. I have been informed that the Chair and Deputy Chair of the Committee, Trevor Clark and Sean Lynch, have indicated they are interested in attending. If anyone else is interested, please let the committee staff know as soon as possible. I also advise members that despite the initial scheduling difficulties, a concurrent meeting with the Ethics Committee on Going for Growth has been arranged for the 8th of March 2016. The meeting will be held in the Senate Chamber from 1 to 2 p.m. immediately prior to our own meeting in room 30. Can I seek agreement for the forward work programme, members? Okay. Any other business?
Yes, Chair. Could I raise concerns have been brought to my attention by various groups who have expressed concern a severe risk to PUL funding from DARD. This relates to the successor to the TRIPSI framework. They're concerned that the PUL community, which was previously included as a target group, has not been included in the list. I'm aware that previously there was an identified need, but the Minister seems to be indicating that this need has been met. So with that in mind, could I propose a right to the Minister to ask her why the PUL community is no longer listed as a target group and on what basis she came to that decision to state that the need had been met? I'd be very keen to find out how that decision was come to. Also, Chair, when do you feel we will have a briefing on the outcome of the consultation? Because I feel it would be if we had the time permitting, it would be an opportunity for an additional briefing for us. I think it would be very
Yeah,
useful.
I've had a number of correspondence, and it was an issue I was going to raise on the PL funding. There's no doubt that it is an issue.
Down for
I think,
For the briefing? Okay. So could I propose a right to the chair then?
and I second, that proposal, I second that proposal, that certainly is an issue, and
Well, if the Minister thinks she can do that, and then at the same time, we'll push through the Rural Needs Bill for her, she would need to recognise that that's not going to happen. It's not going to discriminate like that.
no, it's very important that that is addressed, absolutely.
Briefing's down for the
It was an issue. It was an issue last year, and they did extend that one. There was an issue last year, and we went to the Minister on the issue. I personally went to the Minister on the issue, and that was extended for another
We need
year.
clarity how she sees that need has been met, so.
Yeah, we need to get that clarity. Yeah. Okay. We'll do it. Send a letter. Okay. From the committee. That's 100%. Any other business? Okay. Agenda item 13, date and time of the next meeting. The next meeting of the Committee for Agriculture and Rural Development will take place on Tuesday, 16th February 2016 at 1:30 in Room 30 Parliament Building. I declare the meeting adjourned. Okay.